folks, even before the 45th President of the United States is sworn in, you may be looking at the 46th President of the United States. For all of you conspiracy theorists, I'm not really one, but what the hell, I can start my own. It's my contention that there's the possibility that the Republicans are going to have Donald Trump put his hand on that Bible, knowing full well that he is going to be subject to impeachment hearings because of his lack of divestiture of his holdings. And they are going to evoke the emoluments clause. If you don't know what that is, look it up. That being said, if he is impeached using that particular clause, this man will become the 46th President of the United States. Now, that being said, I cannot stand this person. He is a holier-than-thou, backstabbing, homophobic, right-wing politician, and I'm not using the word politician in a positive manner. This guy tilts whichever way the wind is blowing, and I don't know what star he wrote in under, but if Donald Trump had not picked him to be his vice presidential running mate, he would have lost his election in Indiana. Now, all the housekeeping out of the way, this guy appeared on 3 of the major Sunday morning news shows. And I have no respect for him in his defense of Donald Trump and Trump's attack on the character and history of John Lewis. I don't have a problem with Trump defending himself, okay, and saying John Lewis is totally wrong and his presidency is 100% legitimate. No problem with that whatsoever. That is defense. But when he went after John Lewis, indicating that John Lewis was a nobody that hadn't done anything in the history of this country, and that he should go back to trying to represent his district, which, by the way, includes Atlanta, which is a really good district. Now, I did a video on John Lewis's district if you're interested in it, and to be honest with you, it's not the best, it's not the worst, it's middle of the road, but it's just as good as crime-wise as Marsha Blackburn, but you don't hear them saying anything about her going back to her district and doing something about that. Anyway, let me play the clips, multiple. I'm going to play the clip from Face the Nation, and I'm going to play the Fox clip. He was also on Meet the Press, but you know, that's going to be overkill. Here we go.
Yeah, I can confirm that those elements were not part of that discussion.
Congressman John Lewis, who you serve with, Democrat, told on Meet the Press that he did not consider Donald Trump a legitimate president. Your reaction to that?
Well, look, Donald Trump won this election fair and square. 30 out of 50 states, including Georgia. More counties than any Republican candidate since Ronald Reagan.
Okay, folks, that's a rehearsed line. Rance Previous said that both on Meet the Press and This Week with George Stephanopoulos, and he just parroted the same exact lines. So these guys were prepared for this question, and they were, I guess, coached to use the same exact lines.
And to hear John Lewis, a man that I served with, that I respect, to question the legitimacy of the election and to say that Donald Trump will not be a legitimate president was deeply disappointing to me. And also to hear that he was not going to attend the inauguration this Friday. I hope he reconsiders both statements. But this is a time when we're facing real challenges at home and abroad, and I believe the inauguration ceremony itself and this moment in history would greatly benefit if we set aside these baseless assertions about the legitimacy of the election and we look for ways to come together, to work together. And the president-elect actually, in a tweet late last night, invited Congressman Lewis to work with us to bring more prosperity, better schools, more safety to our cities around the country.
Let me ask you about a tweet he sent before that tweet, and in which he defended himself. Famous counterpuncher Donald Trump said that John Lewis was all talk and no action. I've got a question. He has every right to defend himself. Let me ask you about the wisdom of defending himself. For 5 years, Donald Trump questioned the legitimacy of Barack Obama, said he wasn't born in America, was really the chief advocate of this so-called birther idea. Given that history, given that he's about to be president, why swing at this pitch? Couldn't he have just let it go by, be the bigger man, let John Lewis do his thing, move on? He's about to be president of the United States. As you say, all those challenges, bringing the country together. Why swing at this pitch?
Well,
why? Because Donald Trump is a thin-skinned, misogynistic, homophobic, racist asshole who can't let any perceived slight go by.
I just, as you said, Donald Trump has every right to defend himself, and to have someone.
But he did challenge the legitimacy of President Obama. So why not?
But to have someone like John Lewis, who look.
Notice he's not answering the question. He just deflected the question onto John Lewis. Notice also that he didn't address the fact that Trump attacked John Lewis. He wasn't defending himself, he was attacking John Lewis.
I served with John. I disagreed with him on most issues, but I had tremendous respect for him. And actually, my family and I walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with him on the 65th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. We honor the sacrifice that he made, but part of the result of what happened on Bloody Sunday and the courage that he showed was the Voting Rights Act. And so for someone of his stature, not just in the civil rights movement, but in voting rights, to make a comment that he did not consider Donald Trump to be a legitimate president, I think is deeply disappointing. Look, I
Notice they tried to shift it again, okay? It wasn't the vote count that John Lewis was questioning. It was the interference by the Russians in potentially changing the minds of voters who voted. We're talking about two different things.
attended both of Barack Obama's inaugurations, one as a congressman and one as a governor, because I believe inaugurations are a moment when we should come together around that individual who has been elected to be President of the United States of America. Donald Trump said it on election night, John, that he's determined to be president of all of the people of this country, and I do hope that that John Lewis will reconsider his statement, but also will reconsider attending the inauguration. Will join us so that we can come together to take on the intractable problems that have been facing Americans, particularly too many families in our inner cities that are beset by unsafe streets, failing schools, and a lack of jobs and opportunities.
One final question. Esquire has a report that
You
the
know,
administration is thinking of moving.
that kills me. That I hope that John Lewis will join us to deal with, blah, 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 all the bullshit characterizations that are used against black people. A question is, has Donald Trump actually reached out directly to John Lewis? Have you reached out directly to John Lewis? The answer to that is an emphatic no. Now, let me jump to the Fox interview that this guy did. And again, he interviewed here, obviously, on Meet the Press. John Wilkerson never really called him, on anything. He met with, had an interview on this station, which is obviously Face the Nation, with Chuck Todd on Meet the Press, and with Mike Wallace on Fox. I'm going to jump to the Fox interview. Hold on one sec. All right, I think I said Mike Wallace. It's actually Chris Wallace. Chris is Mike's son. All right, here's the interview that he did with Mike Pence on Fox.
Elect, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks, Chris. Good to be here. It's an exciting week.
Democratic Congressman John Lewis, one of the icons of the civil rights movement, says that he is not going to attend the inauguration, and he has explained why. Here he is.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
What's your reaction to Congressman Lewis?
Donald Trump won this election fair and square. 30 of 50 states, more counties than any Republican candidate since Ronald Reagan, and the American people know that.
Where did I hear that line before? Oh yeah, on Face the Nation. And if you took the time and saw it, you heard that same line on Meet the Press. Exactly word for word.
Well, I have great respect for John Lewis and for...
Where did I hear that one before? Oh yeah, I heard it on Face the Nation and Meet the Press.
his contributions, particularly to the civil rights movement. I was deeply disappointed to see him, someone of his stature.
Where did I hear that line before? Oh yeah, on Face the Nation and Meet the Press.
Question the legitimacy of Donald Trump's election as president and say he's not attending the inauguration. And I hope he reconsiders both positions. You know, we've even had recounts in this election where the numbers for the president-elect have actually gone up. There's no question about the legitimacy of this election, and for John Lewis to make those statements is deeply disappointing. But this is also, it's disappointing too, because I truly do believe this is a time when the American people should be celebrating the peaceful transition of power. That's what this week is really all about, Chris. And to know that 4 living presidents will be on the stage acknowledging that peaceful transition of power. The world will be watching, will hear the first remarks that Donald Trump will make as president of the United States in his inaugural address. I hope that John Lewis and some others who have joined his plans to take a pass on the inauguration will rethink that, will be with us, and will celebrate this extraordinary moment in the life of our nation and in the life of
I'd like
democracy.
to ask you as well, you talk about Lewis's comments about Mr. Trump. I'd like to ask you about Mr. Trump's comments about John Lewis. I want to put up this tweet because in response, the president-elect called John Lewis all talk, 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 no action. Can he really say...
He forgot to say no action or results.
that about the man who got his head cracked open walking across the Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama on Bloody Sunday? All talk, no action.
Well,
You think that's appropriate?
I think Donald Trump...
He's not going to answer the question as whether it was an appropriate tweet or not. He's going to fall back to the Donald Trump has the right to defend himself. That wasn't an defense of his position. That was an attack on John Lewis.
has the right to defend himself when someone of John Lewis's stature, someone who's not only an icon in the civil rights movement, but also someone who, by virtue of his sacrifice on that day that we know as Bloody Sunday, he crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge and he suffered that abuse. And it was through that the Voting Rights Act itself, for someone to use his stature, to use term.
So basically you just said that Donald Trump's tweet was bullshit because for John Lewis's sacrifice, that's how we got the Voting Rights Act. So his actions did indeed bring results.
It was like this is not a legitimate president. It's just deeply disappointing to me, and I hope he reconsiders it. But what Donald Trump was talking about there was literally generations of failed policies coming out of Washington, D.C. that have failed too many families in too many cities across this country. I will tell you, Donald Trump...
That is total bullshit spin.
...is a man who is profoundly impatient with failure. And you saw in the campaign He went to major cities in this country and said, we're going to bring safety to our streets. We're going to bring school choice to our children. We're going to bring jobs and opportunities to our cities. You remember that great line, what the heck do you have to lose? He is committed to being...
Yeah, it was a great line. You said it exactly. And the answer is everything that we've accomplished over the past 20 years. And as far as him going to all the great cities throughout the country, and exactly which great cities did he specifically go to where he addressed the black community or even the Hispanic community? No, he went to the major cities or suburbs of the major cities. In the case of Milwaukee, gave his speech to a more than likely, well, it was reported 95% white audience, where he, quote unquote, was supposedly talking to black people, and that's where that particular line came from. So thus far, Donald Trump is all hat, no cattle.
President of all of the people of this country into bringing jobs and prosperity in ways that the failed liberal policies of the last several generations have not.
Let me pick up on another controversy this week.
All right, so I'm not going to go through this. I'm trying to keep these videos under 20 minutes. So again, Mike Pence is a politician. He may be our 46th president. Donald Trump is full of crap. This guy basically can't give you a straight answer as far as I'm concerned, a real answer. I am not going to sit here and be depressed about this crap. All I can do is what I do is report, bullshit when I see it, report things that I think are of interest to the people out there that may not have full access to the information, and then take it from there. I vote, I make myself heard. As far as my local elections are concerned, I will continue to do that. But again, if I see bullshit out there, I'm calling it, and as much as I am able to, I will try to do something about it.